Good afternoon, and it is afternoon here in the desert. This is the Desert Shaman, Roger Thunder, or you can call me Roger Ramjet, or Roger Dodger, the Artful Dodger, or whatever you want to call me. I'll come to any name you call me, because I'm all names and all people and all things. There you go. How's that for an intro? I think I'm going to talk some more about the Ukraine war. It's been, 9 days, 7 days, 8 days, somewhere around there since I did my last video, and it was also on the Ukraine war. There's a big meeting, there's a big NATO meeting in some little town over in Finland, Vilnius, I think the name of it is. See, let me just say something right now. There's so many names to so many cities that I never heard of before, except for in the last year. All these names for where the battles are taking place: Artemis, or Bakhmut, or Kherson, or Donetsk, and Mariupol. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and the names go on, and I am not a dictionary on geography or any of that stuff, nor do I know the correct pronunciation of some of these places and names. So I'm not an authority on those particular things. What I am an authority on, or let's say not an authority, but what I follow closely is the war in Ukraine and world events and geopolitical events in the context of where I'm coming from anyway, which is shamanism and seeing the bigger picture, So anyway, the latest on this whole thing is that the NATO meeting in over there is supposed to decide, the banter has been they're going to decide on what to do with Ukraine, about NATO and entering NATO, and it's all just talk. It's all bullshit. It's all talk. It's just another distraction. And then you got the U.S. sending cluster munitions, over to Ukraine. Let me just start with that, the cluster munition thing. Any moron that knows anything about the military or history or the battle of the battles that America has fought, or on and on. Anybody that knows anything about military or military strategy or weapons, or just the common folk, knows that cluster munitions is a naughty word. It's a let's blow their bodies into smithereens. Let's blow their limbs off. Let's shoot over a shell that, when explodes, tosses little balls all over the place, but have a rate of exploding of a high percentage rate of not exploding. You get, in other words, you get a lot of these little bomblets that don't explode. What happens? Well, they get buried, and then later on some kid comes by. Even after the war, I'm talking about decades after a war, some kid will come along, think it's a ball, pick it up and blow his arm off, or blow up. So they were kind of like a lot of countries outlawed them. So what is the United States' latest gambit, latest move is to send cluster munitions, over to Ukraine. Why? Because they can't send them anything else. They're out of ammo. They're out of 155 caliber ammo, which is what's being used in the artillery over there in Ukraine. Basically, they're running out of ammo, and the West is running out of ammo, so as a last-ditch effort type thing, they're going to send in outlawed munitions. Now, These munitions are just known in the history of warfare to be brutal, be horrific. Ghoulish is the word you could put on it. So you can see what low level the United States has stooped to, just outright saying we're gonna send over cluster munitions that a lot of countries have outlawed, just because we want to, just because we want to keep prolonging this thing. Meanwhile, you have that meeting in that town, Vilnius, or Vilnius, that's what it is, Vilnius. Help me remember that, Vilnius. That is the big NATO meeting, and much ado. But see, here's the thing. They're not going to let Ukraine into NATO, and it would go against their charter. The charter says any country that is in conflict, has a conflict within their borders, cannot join NATO. You can't be in the club, supposedly, unless at the last minute they say, well, we're going to change our whole charter. I don't see that happening. So what we have here is a continuation of a narrative, or a continuation of a stance that seems unchanging. Then you got, let me say at this point that I was spot on. I hate to blow my own horn, but I was spot on about the Prigozhin thing. I said basically that it was them blowing off some steam, and come to find out Prigozhin's back in Russia now. He was exiled to Belarus, but then he was invited back by Putin to with 35 wartime commanders to sit around and shoot the shit and talk about what they're going to do next. Okay. So when I said in my last video that this is all just one big family over there in Russia having a quarrel, little spat, family spat, like Italian families and French families, and people that are passionate, do. They had this little spat. Okay, so I covered that, and that came to be true, as I said it would, or said it was. So I scored pretty high on that one. Now in talking about this new trend here with the cluster munitions and them deciding what to see how fast things change here. We went from they're going to blow up the nuclear power plant in Zaporozhye. See, there's another name. I get high scores for all these names. I can't remember anything, but I do remember quite a few. We went from the sabotage or anticipated sabotage of the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant by Russia or Ukraine. That moved on because evidently Zelensky got a call and said, quit talking about this shit. Then you got Biden coming out and saying that the reason he's sending cluster bombs to cover his ass, the reason he's sending cluster bombs is because he let the cat out of the bag, which nobody ever knew about except the alternative intel, that there was no ammo that could be had or could be produced in the United States quick enough to help Ukraine. So basically what you get down to here is Ukraine is a sinking ship. It's the Titanic. It's going down. It's halfway down, probably 3/4 of the way down. And they don't know what to do next. And they wanted, Ukraine wanted their big offensive to succeed so that when they had this meeting, they would be more open to helping Ukraine some more and even some more. And then other people are talking about, well, the Polish are going to send in troops to help support Ukraine, but that's a NATO country. So basically if they did that, they couldn't do it under the guise of NATO. So this is where all this stuff stands here. Meanwhile, the war is grinding on, and there's more deaths, and Russia is pummeling Ukraine into the ground. The infrastructure is 50% or more destroyed. 12 million people have moved out of Ukraine. It's devastated. It's completely devastated now. Why? Because the West kept sending in weapons, miracle weapons, save-the-day weapons, the HIMARS, the Bradley tanks. Then you got the Leopard tanks from Germany, and then you got certain missiles and storm shield missiles, and all of these have not had one iota of an effect on the outcome of this confrontation here, and nothing is. The only thing that could possibly have an effect is just some catastrophic false flag out of nowhere. Some devious minded person in the Biden administration, somebody like Newland, or comes up with some kind of crazy idea to try to subvert attention or to make it such a shock, that somehow it causes a rift or a crack in the normal, let's say, structure of the offense and defense on the front lines in Ukraine and Russia, That would be the only thing. It would come out of nowhere. It would be something like a dirty bomb or the nuclear power plant, or because just when you think the nuclear power plant is off the table, shit comes back on the table, because of the lies, all right? Now, this is purely evident in the fact that Biden has said many times, well, if we ever sent F-16s over there, that would be World War III. Then he decides to send F-16s. And then he said previously, we'll never send cluster ammunitions or anything. And then he sends cluster ammunitions. We have no advice. Everything that comes out of this fool's mouth is a fucking lie, And everything that is coming out of the narrative of the mouths of the mainstream media in America, and the generals, and the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, and General Milley, and Jake Sullivan, and it's just one big lie, It's one big lie. So what we have here is a third world country, if you want to look at it that way. So that's where we are, and I'll touch on that further in a second here. So that's where we are in the stream of time. Where we are right now is, I don't see, and others don't see, how Ukraine could last through the summer. They're so devastated, and their offensive obviously didn't work. The much talked about, ballyhooed, propagandized, lied to your face offensive, That didn't turn out either, Now, as far as America goes, I think I should touch on this. We are basically what America is right now, is a third world, third world dictatorship. We are a third world dictatorship. There is no real power anymore from the United States of America. The government, there really is no power. The money system is failing. The BRICS nations are swapping dollars for gold-backed currency. They're losing the war in Ukraine. The infrastructure of the country is falling apart. Railroad tracks, highways, that type of thing. The homeless situation is out of control. The border situation is out of control. It's completely open. Don't think for 1 minute, okay, don't think for 1 minute that with this open border situation, America isn't vulnerable to all kinds of cells, okay, and spies and operatives coming in from other countries. And I'm talking every kind of operative. I'm talking about Mexico, I'm talking about China, I'm talking about Russia, any operative that wants to get in at Israel, any cell or any operative that wants to get in here, you got an open door, okay? So where we're sitting right now is in a situation, hot summer here, okay? We got this situation. How long can this war go on is the big question. How long can the war go on? A lot of us wonder that because we see that the war is intimately attached to the future of the cabal or the deep state that is residing or seems to reside in the West or seems to have a little nest in the West behind closed doors. Of course, the criminality of that and the severe nature of that beast is despicable, okay? And so naturally you would want to see something like that fall. Most people would, that are in the know. Those that aren't in the know don't have a clue. And so if Russia, which was much touted about in biblical narrative and even other kinds of prophecy as somebody that would be pushed against, okay, some outside nation would push against that nation, okay, and all kinds of prophecy here. And it would result in some kind of cataclysmic event or some huge change in the nature of what we are experiencing here. What that change could be is anybody's guess. So this has just been kind of a quick update on what's happening over there. Can't think of anything. I mean, I cover stuff. I know I jump around, but it's all in there. All the information is in there. And I haven't done a video in a while, so I figured I'd do this one today. It's a hot day here in the desert. We're up in triple digits here this time of year, so I basically just hibernate back here in the war room, the comfortable carpeted, air-conditioned war room, until we get through the bitter part of the summer, or let's say the hot as hell part. I'm thinking, though, that there's going to be some El Nino effect and more clouds and rain than usual, probably in the latter half of July and more into the August. So anyway, support for the channel here is appreciated, and many have, not a whole multitude, mind you, but certain select people that appreciate what I have to say have donated. At spiritofcrazyhorse.com, that's where you donate. There's a little donate button there. $10 or more gets you a free copy of one of my books, PDF copy, so keep that in mind as well. Always can use the support, always am connected with, in some way, with my subscribers out there. Also, I guess you should like the video and hit the subscribe button, share it, and all that stuff. That helps me out here. That's up to you. So I'll leave it there. Adios and namaste. How's that for 2 different languages?